Good evening. My name's Al Galves. I'm a psychologist. I practice in Las Cruces, New Mexico. Um, I understand that a majority of Americans believe that mental illnesses are caused by genetic dynamics, brain disorders, biochemical imbalances, and that kind of thing. Um, that's a very cynical and harmful belief. And I want to talk to you about why I think that's the case. It's cynical because if you believe that the most important thing about a human being, the faculty that they use to live their lives, their minds, are not under their control. They're at the whim of these biological forces, biochemistry, genetics, brain function, things that human beings don't have control over. So, that's pretty cynical. And you're also believing that what's going on with this person, the state of being that this person is in, what they're feeling, thinking, how they're behaving, has nothing to do with their life. It has nothing to do with their concerns about their life or themselves or the situation they're in. It's hard to believe that, I think. And I also think that most people actually don't believe that. If, in other words, if I press the point and I say, wait a second, you really believe that the state of being a person is in and how they're thinking and feeling and behaving doesn't have anything to do with their life, the life situation, and their reactions to their life? Most people say, oh, no, no, I think it does. And the reason I know this is I interviewed 10 people. Um, and I asked all 10 of them, well, what do you think causes mental illness? And they all gave me some physiological explanation, biochemistry, genetics, brain function. And then I asked them, so what do you think triggers the change? This person wasn't mentally ill, quote unquote, and now they're mentally ill. Uh, what triggered that? And they basically all said, oh, something happened to the person. So I asked them, I said, well, wait a second. If what triggered the change is something happened to the person, it has something to do with their lives and what happened and their reaction to that, then why are you saying that it was caused by biochemistry or genetics or their brain function? And they all went, oh, yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. So, I think people are pretty confused about this. They're not really sure what they think about it or what the implications of what they think are. So, you get the point. When you believe that somebody's state of being is caused by these physiological functions they have no control over, that's pretty cynical, right? I mean, what can this person do about it? Well, we'll talk about it. They can take drugs, they can get electroshocked. Probably not a good idea. Um, so why is it harmful? Why is that a harmful belief? It's a harmful belief because if you believe that, you're more likely to try and be treated or to get help through psychiatric drugs or electroshock, and less likely to be treated with psychotherapy. And the benefit risk ratio of psychotherapy is so much better than the benefit risk ratio of using drugs or electroshock that it's hard to believe anybody with good information would actually decide to use the drugs or the electroshock. So let me go into the benefit risk ratio a little bit with you here. What's the benefit risk ratio of drugs and electroshock? I'll use drugs because electroshock is pretty uncommon and it's extreme. So what's the benefit of drugs, taking drugs? Well, you might feel better, you know, somewhat better. You might be less down, less depressed, right? You might be a little more up. In the case of psychosis, taking an antipsychotic drug, you'll be dumbed down some. You'll be basically, your energy level will be pushed down. If you're experiencing hallucinations like voices, they'll be more distant. They won't be quite as intrusive. Um, so those are basically the benefits. They're not going to help you recover. The drugs are not going to help you recover from any mental illness. Well, what are the risks? Well, in the case of antidepressants, sexual dysfunction, loss of libido, uh, loss of emotional processing, loss of caring, loss of conscience. This is big, emotional numbing. You're going to be impairing your emotional processing. That's a faculty you need in order to live well, in order to know what's important and what's not important, what you're afraid of, what you want, all those important things you learn through your emotions. You're gonna numb your emotions. You're at risk of going into a mania. You're at risk of akathisia. You're going to have a hard time withdrawing from those drugs. And when you do withdraw, you're gonna have a very high probability of relapsing back into the state of being you were in before you took them. So the benefit risk ratio isn't really very good for psychiatric drugs. Now, what about psychotherapy? The benefits of psychotherapy are incredible. Psychotherapy, you can learn how to live your life. You can learn how to manage your organism. You can learn how to accept what's true about yourself and have some compassion for yourself. You can understand why you do what you do and why you don't do what you do, what makes you tick. You can learn how to manage your thoughts and your emotions, your intentions, your perceptions, so that you can live more the way you want to live, so you can love more the way you want to love and express yourself more the way you want to express yourself. You can learn how to get along with other people, how to develop better relationships. Um, you can learn these skills and knowledge that you can use for the rest of your life to live the way you want to live. I mean, very, very important and valuable benefits. And what are the risks, really? You may waste some time. You may spend some money, waste some money. You may hear some things that are going to be hard for you to hear. Uh, you may be sent down the wrong path for a while in some ways. Uh, not really big risks. So basically, the benefit risks of psychotherapy are much, much better than the benefit risks of using drugs. So the reason I say that belief system, this belief that mental illnesses are caused by chemical imbalances and brain function and genetics, is harmful. It sends people down the wrong path. It induces people to choose the wrong kind of treatment. And so, if mental illnesses aren't caused by these physiological dynamics, what are they caused by? Mental illnesses, what we call mental illnesses, and I'm putting in quote because they're not just illnesses. They can be very impairing, but they're also wake-up calls. They're opportunities for growth. They have really important messages for people. Basically, mental illnesses are how people are reacting to their lives. They're how they're reacting to their life situations. Um, they basically have to do with concerns that people have about themselves and their lives, deep concerns, fears about their lives, difficulty coping with life, frustration and obstacles to loving the way they want to live and working the way they want to work, expressing themselves the way they want to express themselves. So when they're not able to do that, they become quote unquote mentally ill. They become depressed, forcing them to deal with their lives. They become manic, trying to have the illusion of being great and successful and not having to deal with everyday life. They become obsessive compulsive, trying to get the illusion of control over things they can't control. They become psychotic, trying to avoid pain and protect themselves and find a way to survive in a toxic world that's been toxic for them and to deal somehow or protect themselves against toxic human beings. So all of the symptoms of mental illness are there for a reason. They're meaningful. They have something to do with this person's life and how they're adapting to their life or trying to deal with their life. And they're all somehow functional. They do something for the person, and they're potentially useful. The way we deal with the way we treat people now with mental illness, give them drugs, we try to wipe out the symptoms, and that's a mistake because the symptoms are very useful. They have really important messages for us. So my basic message is what you believe about mental illness. In other words, how you conceive of it is very important, and it'll make a difference in how you deal with situations that throw you in to these kinds of difficult times, emotional crises, emotional distress, life crises, spiritual emergencies, difficult dilemmas, various kinds of overwhelm, fear, etc. The bottom line, yes, is that mental illness is about how people are living their lives. It's reactions to their lives. Oh yes, there's biochemistry going on, there's genetics going on, there's brain function going on, but it's not important. It's not where we should be looking, and it's not where we should be intervening to help the person.